Hello and welcome to another episode of Certified Forgotten. It is me, one of your co-hosts, Matt Donato. With me is not Matt Monagle as usual. He is somewhere caught between Austin and Philadelphia, moving his life somewhere across the country. So, Monagle, wherever you are, I hope you're somewhat rested and everything is over soon. But that means I get to bring in another fantastic guest, and I think I default to this guest every time because I just want to talk horror with them, and it's very dumb. Why would I not to? Meg Navarro. Meg, thank you once again for filling in for Monagle and being my Monagle.
I was just gonna say, I was gonna introduce myself as Monagle because I like to be the Monagle stand-in. I hope I do him proud when he's away.
Yeah, you do him very proud. Don't you worry about that. It's like my first go to is always, I don't really want to put work into this. Like, I'm just gonna ask Meg because if I get Meg, I'm done. I don't need anything else. Why would I talk to anyone else?
Yeah, we could just go right in and talk horror forever and ever. We won't, but we could.
We could indeed, but this is a special week. We're not going to cover one movie. We're pretty much in the mid-year. It is July 3rd as we're doing this, so I'm sure you've seen plenty of lists of whether it's horror or not, how the movie temperature is being taken at this point, what movies are at the top, what's at the bottom. For us, we're going to focus on the good, and we're going to keep this week as the best horror movies that you can see so far this year, that we definitely have seen. So I don't know. We can just hop into it. Let's talk movies. Let's do this. We're going to start at the bottom of our list and work our way up. But Meg, you're the guest. Obviously, I have to let you go first.
So I picked one that I think we both really love. One that shockingly got dumped to Netflix without any fanfare. I guess not shocking because that's the Netflix MO, but this movie clearly deserved better. That's Dead Talent Society. This charming horror comedy of what I wanted from a Beetlejuice sequel and got from the director of Detention.
Which is so funny because Detention is such a morose and just downtrodden movie. It is wonderful. I love it. It's a video game adaptation that you're like, how is this a video game adaptation? In any case, go watch Detention. But it's a little easier to find Dead Talent Society. And echoing what Meg has said, you are 100% right. This is one of my favorites from Fantastic Fest last year. And seeing it there, we all had that question of, well, where's it going to end up? We all know these foreign films take a little bit harder of a path to American theaters if they even make it in the theater. So
right.
Was this going to end up on a streamer? Where was it? Unfortunately, it got the Netflix treatment. And listen, I get it. Netflix is a great outlet for so many people, and God bless if you get that both money and exposure. But as a horror fan, it is frustrating for me to see something like Dead Talent Society that I really do love. Like, it's almost like elements feel like a Christopher Guest sports comedy.
Yes.
With that Beetlejuice vibe, like you said, it's so there. So
yes.
I was like, this is so unique and fun. And I would have loved to see what a Neon or someone could have done with the marketing for this.
Yeah, it's just it's so vibrant, so colorful. The jokes land, the characters are endearing, and surprisingly, it doesn't sacrifice on blood at all. Like, it's pretty bloody and gnarly in places. Like, it's like the perfect film that deserved so much better than it got.
And God bless it, made it to Fantastic, and I think it made it to a few other festivals, if I am.
Yes, it was TIFF Midnight Madness premiere before Fantastic Fest, and it was really well received. I'm trying to remember what the audience favorite was. That could have been the audience favorite, but don't hold me to that. I'm not sure. It's my audience favorite.
And that's all that matters.
There
you
you
are
go.
The audience we need.
There you go.
Very lighthearted, very comedic, so I do want to get that out front. Like, if you're looking for outright scares, this is not the movie that's going to deliver that.
Yeah.
But saying that, it does have some really fun gore moments. It's one of those horror comedies that doesn't forget about the horror aspect, and while that might not be in-your-face jump scares, it is very meta. It is very of the horror fans' comedy section. And so, like, I really love the whole idea of when you die, you have to prove yourself in the afterlife by being a scare actor, basically.
Yes.
But you get to see the scares too. So we get the VH1 behind the scenes part of it, but we do get a few really good scares.
Yeah, you do. I do like that it's also kind of like almost like a spoof of influencer culture, just with the afterlife and ghosts. So you've got rich world building, but it's also really funny in the deconstruction of like how ridiculous we are to get likes and clicks and attention.
Especially even after we die.
After we die, there's no freedom. Yeah.
No. The internet has not poisoned just us in society, but the afterlife itself. We never escape it.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a Beetlejuice movie, but I guess for grown-ups.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was my honorable mention, let's say. Like, I think we both have about 5 picks and we have some overlap, but
Yeah.
to say that, Dead Talent Society was right there for me as well. So I do hope anyone listening to this does give it a try on Netflix. Don't just scroll past because you don't know anything about it. That's
Yeah.
Netflix MO.
Hop in. It's there. Watch it, which is not what you can say for everything on this list.
God, no. Well, speaking of hopping in and diving in, my first pick is going to be Dangerous Animals. It is not on Shudder as of yet, but is a Shudder release, so it will be there soon. It had its theatrical release already, and it is the third film from Sean Byrne, which saying it's only his third film in, since 2007 or whatever is such
2009-ish, yeah.
2009ish, yeah, of the Loved Ones fame, and putting this together with Loved Ones and The Devil's Candy, it's just the man is 3 for 3, so hardcore. And Dangerous Animals specifically, let Jai Courtney do more weird shit. I let him be
Yes.
a freaky little psycho, and here he is playing a serial killer a la Creep that is videotaping women getting eaten viciously by sharks. It's just such an interesting, and when you get into like the pathos of his character, why it's happening, it becomes even more interesting of a true crime esque thriller. But it's also a really well done kidnapping movie, survival movie. All this stuff is there, and boy, did I really like this movie.
So did I. This is one of my favorites. This is my top 5 easily, for the all of the reasons you mentioned. I just think, being that we are both huge fans of shark horror, we've seen it's gotten a bit overcrowded and stale. I think there's more bad CG shark thrillers than there are. Well, there's no think. It's just there's no question that's the case that there's way more bad ones than there are good ones. So it's time that it gotta shake up. And mashing the shark thriller with a serial killer thriller is brilliant. I am obsessed that he used real sharks. That he composited into the shots and took painstaking measures to kind of blend it with the water of the tanks that they were filming in and the actual freezing ocean of off the Australia coast. But yeah, Jai Courtney's performance is incredible. I mean, Hassie Harrison's really good as the final girl. I do think this is closer to The Loved Ones, which is closer to my heart, which probably also means I'm predisposed to loving this movie. But it's just so good.
Yeah, like you said about the sharks, it feels so genuine because it is working like the reef, where most everything is real sharks, like wilderness shots that are put into the movie. So you never feel like it's faking it. But then when you do have to go digital and you do have to go CG for, there's going to be sharks interacting with characters, whether that's gnawing at them or the fins.
Right.
And I really like the way that Sean Byrne shoots the film itself, because there's no wasted space. Like when you need to see the sharks, you do. When you need to know they're there, you do. But for long portions, it is just Tucker, Jai Courtney's lunatic, on a boat with
Yeah.
Hassie Zephyr, and it is that struggle between two people, but the dynamic never feels off. And I think that's the important part, because Jai Courtney is a very imposing figure, very muscular, very everything. Like, to think that Hassie's surfer can best him and escape, it takes a little bit of work. And I think Sean Byrne absolutely does the work for it. Like, they display Tucker as beatable when he's taken by surprise.
Yeah.
So I really like that aspect of it.
I agree. Yeah. And I know a lot of people had, well, not a lot of people, but there have been complaints about the romance aspect of it. It doesn't bother me because I think the thing that I like about his work, in every single one so far is he's going to put his characters through the ringer. They are going to get absolutely destroyed and brutalized, and they're going to earn their survival. But it's never too dark. Like there's always like an underlying sense of hope. You're not leaving feeling wrung out. You're feeling like this, whatever ending was earned, any triumph was earned. And to me, like the romance is kind of a big part of like keeping that underlying hope and preventing it from going from like, this is a really solid horror movie to this is a nasty piece of work and I feel wrung out.
Yeah, Monagle said it when we talked about Dangerous Animals specifically on our episode, and I 100% agree with him. I didn't even think about it this way, but like Sean Byrne is a very hopeful director, and that
Yeah.
is insane to say
Yeah.
with his catalog. But it's exactly what you said. These characters are fighting for themselves in so many ways, but it's never in a I mean, listen, it gets graphic, it gets gross. We've all seen the loved ones and stuff like that, but
Right.
there is an underlying self-preservation that is emotionally impactful too. Like there's something to it. It's not just torture porn or whatever you want to call it, quotation marks.
Yeah.
There's a lot here, and again, I say that, but there's also Jai Courtney dancing in his underwear. So like it's such a
It's a whole
hilarious.
package.
Literally, did you mean
I mean, it was an opportunity and I took it. It was a yeah, double entendre.
double entendre?
Entendre.
All right, so what's next for you? What are we going to?
What are we going to? I feel like we should definitely talk about probably the most divisive horror movie of the year so far, 28 years later. I love that it's so divisive. Some inside baseball for listeners who don't know is when you see a screening, when you see a press screening, the first thing that happens when you exit is a studio rep is wanting to know your thoughts immediately. Like they want to know what you thought of the movie, so they could take that back to the studio and whatever. I my response immediately walking out of 28 years later was I need to process because this is so much movie packed in. It is an onslaught. The first half of the movie is like sensory assault as there's rapid cuts, there's like this bombastic sound. It's just so much happening on a technical level, stylistically and intensity with the infected, and then it just kind of shifts into something else entirely. So it's a lot to process, and then you just start unpacking all of the themes because it is kind of this weird, very tangled, complex metaphor of like Britain. So there's so much movie packed in. And I loved it. I love that it's divisive. I love any movie that you can walk out of that's like this slickly produced, this daring and bold, and have people so heated in their reactions. We need more daring. I will take a daring swing like that pisses people off or gets people talking any day than something that came and went and was boring and played it safe.
Yeah, that's ultimately like again, I'm positive on this movie for that reason. I have my issues with it. I'm not going to say I'm glowingly in love with it,
Yeah.
but I ultimately do think you can't discredit the absolute swings they take with this. And at times it feels like House of the Dead in the way it's shot, and at other times I'm in awe of the way they're doing it. I mean, the causeway scene, just one. It's going to be one of my favorite scenes this entire year, hands
Yes.
down.
It's gorgeous. I just like the stuff that he comes up with, Danny Boy, with like did you see the rig with the iPhones and it's, to give you this crazy POV. Yeah, I just from a filmmaking perspective, it's exciting to me. It's exciting to me just thematically like how what they decided to reinterpret this world, so many years later. I totally get why it doesn't work for people, but I don't know. I was riveted.
I'm actually so curious to see how the next film plays and how that influences either my love or maybe more dislike of this. Like I
Yeah.
it's strange to say that there's no way to separate those two movies, and I might end up liking 28 years more after I see the Bone Temple because it all plays together. It's so connective. So I'm really excited for this second film.
Same. I mean, not only just as a fan of Nia DaCosta, but she's American. What is an American filmmaker going to have to say about a very distinctly British film? I mean, everything about this, like, I don't want to spoil anything, but some of the stuff it touches on, like a stand-in avatar for one of the UK's most notorious pedophiles. Like, that's the kind of bold swings we're talking here. Like, what is DaCosta gonna do with that? So yeah, I'm super pumped. But yeah, I'm also curious to see how it will reflect on this movie.
Well, let's jump from Danny Boyle and Alex Garland and revamping franchises to a very unique film. And I'm going to bring The Rule of Jenny Penn into the conversation because I wasn't, I don't know if I was ready for it. Like,
Yeah.
I know what y'all were saying at Fantastic Fest. I know the hype that was coming out of it, but I still was like, a Jeffrey Rush, John Lithgow senior center horror film. How we do? It does. We do, and it does. I that is literally. I am think this is one of the singular most original horror movies that you can see this year. The idea that horror is so often a young person's game, let's say, because of teen slashers and things of that nature, where the elderly are, they're reserved to be the wise ones or things of that nature, you know? So to get a horror movie that takes place within a nursing home and deals with all this stuff of late stage dementia and lots of heavy topics that like we all deal with obviously and is part of life, but then to make it like a real good thriller too. Coming from the director of Coming Home in the Dark, another very, very bleak film. This is
Extremely.
not as bleak. It has a little more fun with it, but goddamn, this is Rush and Lithgow, just two titans of performance going back and forth, and it's hard to ignore it.
Yeah, it's kind of funny to have this movie in this list of you're just talking about how Byrne is kinda he has a soft touch that pulls it back from nihilism, whereas Ashcroft just goes full-blown darkness, so for me, this was like a downer type movie. There is some playfulness to it, but it's just dark and grim, and then the implications of what it all means is just really depressing. But anytime you can pull John Lithgow in to play a villain role, I think that's an opportunity that nobody should hesitate to take because he just nails villain like incredibly well.
And I think the way that the film plays with surrealness, the way that it's shooting from Jeffrey Rush's perspective, and this is someone who has just suffered a stroke and they are trying to rehabilitate. They think they're getting better. They think they're just in here for a few months and then they'll be back on their own again when
Yeah.
we've all again visited relatives in nursing homes and stuff like that. So we know how this goes. And to see that when he loses, let's say, consciousness and has these flashes of memory lapses, like the film is able to represent that through the cinematography, I think it's really well done. And also, as that surreality happens, John Lithgow's character starts to like physically change and become more demonic when he's shown. Just these little touches that bring out like Ashcroft's originality as well. So it is just a really insightful and thoughtful horror film. And that's talking about the whole composition, like the way everything's brought in, even when Jenny Penn goes from this little baby doll on Lithgow's
Ugh,
hand to
yeah.
that looming shot of Jenny Penn's head just behind him like a hallucination. It's real fucked up. It's real fucked up, and it's real good.
It is Jenny Penn scary, man.
Take us to the next one.
Let's see. Next, I think it might be time to dig into The Ugly Stepsister. Um a Sundance gem that first of all, I think I want to preface by there's so much buzz that comes out of film festivals period, but then there's the kind of film fest specialty where it's like, oh, this movie is so bad, like so over the top extreme that people were sick and vomiting, and you immediately dismiss it because it's like, yeah, that's just an easy marketing gimmick. And there's so many factors into that, especially at Sundance where you have altitude sickness and partying and all of that stuff. But legit, The Ugly Stepsister earns that reputation. Like somebody vomited at the premiere at Sundance, and it was the first time that I'm like, wait, no, that was probably real. Like, as in, it was warranted, the cause. Because, and again, I'm not going to spoil it, but the finale, I was feeling it. Like, I was gagging and having to look away with how prolonged that was. But for Emily Blakefield, I'm butchering her name, but her feature debut to do this really gnarly twist on Cinderella, kind of it harkens back to Brothers Grimm roots, but I feel like she takes it a step further and then just kind of marries this wonderful subtext to it. I love this movie so much. I want to see more from her.
Yeah, it's such a confident debut. Everything you just said, 100% correct. I myself, man, that scene that made somebody vomit, I
Yep.
was real close. You know,
Yeah.
I do pretty well. I do pretty well with
Same.
holding my stomach, same, but like, man, the way that goes, but the confidence is in tone as well because
Yeah.
like you just said, it is very much a grim fable. But I also get notes of like The Great on Hulu.
Yes. It's like a whimsical funny.
Exactly. So the way that she is able to blend comedy with like, commentative stuff about being a woman and the pains of beautification, all this stuff, there are such really good social notes here. And then the darkness is really prevalent. Like when it wants to get nasty, it does, but then once again it gets fantastical and you recreate the creation of the dress with
Yeah.
Cinderella, helping getting changed, but you do it with silkworms and like things that you wouldn't normally associate in a fantasy film of being like positive and whatever you want to say, whimsical. It
Yeah.
she takes the poison apple route to all of this, but it still looks gorgeous. So
It
I
is
there's
so
so many
gorgeous.
things at play.
Yeah, it's so weirdly elegant, but it's also super gross, and those 2 things do not typically pair together, and the way that she integrates them is insane to me. That one is that that's not hit streaming yet, right?
I believe that is on
Oh,
streaming.
it is on streaming. Okay,
So
yeah.
we've got streaming for that one. Also another Shutter title, that is correct. But I'm gonna steer us and keep us going. And my next pick that I think everyone should watch, and I'm a holiday horror guy. It's just what it is.
No.
I know. I've never made that known.
You no, nobody knows this about you. It's a secret. I'm glad we're exposing it.
But technically I sway towards more Christmas. So the idea that I get to celebrate yet another Valentine's Day horror film, and specifically a slasher, and that's Hard Eyes, because I think everything about Hard Eyes played to me in the right way. I was worried once again when you talk about a horror comedy, and this is a
Yeah.
horror comedy romance, so horror rom com. How many elements there are actually going to succeed? What's going to come through? Are we going to be the funny romantic comedy that forgets to be a hardcore slasher? No, that is not this. Like every element Josh Rubin is able to blend in there. Brilliant little screenplay. Love getting the idea of a new slasher being born, and if they can take this in new places with sequels, fantastic. But that nastiness, man, one of the first kills out the gate just brings the blood and guts.
Yes.
So you have the whiner, you have all that stuff, but also two absolutely charming leads that pull us through the entire time. And it's almost like the anti rom com where they're not supposed to be together, but they still end up together anyway because love prevails. And you do that in a movie that is full of guts and nastiness and all the good practical effects. It's one of those slashers that is made by people who love slashers, and you can
Yeah.
tell that through and through.
They serviced both sides really well. Anytime you do like a mashup of like a genre mashup, one side is typically out of sync or gets more prominent, and the other one's kind of yeah, it's a horror comedy, but it's really comedy with a little bit of horror, or vice versa, or whatever. This one services both aspects. The rom com, I think they do more Easter eggs on the rom com because they know that horror Easter eggs are kind of getting stale, and tired a bit. So I thought that was clever. But yeah, as speaking of the rom com angle, I feel like so many modern or contemporary rom coms, they don't do chemistry reads. There's no real chemistry whatsoever. Olivia Holt and Mason Gooding were like the sizzling. Like their chemistry was palpable. It was insane, which is immediately hooks you and pulls you in, and I think makes it more accessible. This one is one that has more wide stream appeal. I think my dentist was like, I don't really like horror. What should I watch? I told her Hard Eyes because she'll at least get absorbed in the rom-com before like they really start layering. Well, I mean, it kind of, like you said, cold open kill, but I think that they offset and they complement each other super well.
Yeah, it's not enough to scare you away if you're really anti horror that much. Like, sure, if you're not a gore person, you might get a little trepidatious, but even that beginning that gives you the real good kills, it's making fun of those Hallmark horror movies so much, and once again influencer culture, all that stuff. So they
Yeah.
are doing it in the vein of a very good satire. So that's where I'm in on it. And I also like how that's not the rest of the movie. Like you think, oh no, are they going cheesy and schmaltzy like the whole time? Like no,
Yeah, no.
it is a
No.
very good relationship story again of they're not supposed to be together, but like they have to be together in certain
Yeah.
ways, and how they work and how they build a relationship out of nothing. I don't know. It's very sweet. And again, Holt, Gooding, my God, sizzle off the screen.
For
Insane.
real.
They're so good.
I'm ready to see what they do next. Take the rom-com sequel setup, but add a killer to the mix. Like I don't wherever they're gonna go next, they should go, and I want to see it.
Yeah, the Hard Eyes Killer definitely plays more towards, well, it's Valentine's Day, obviously, but now
Yeah.
I'm thinking like, can you go into other holidays? Can the eyes change for to ornaments to do Christmas or something?
You're like, please do a
Yeah,
whole
go to
season
Christmas,
of
please.
yeah. I don't know what they'll do, but the mask is cool. We should quickly at least mention how cool the design is because I feel like a lot of them are also kind of familiar and
Right.
lackluster, but I do really love the mask design and the light up eyes on this.
Yeah, we need a redemption after time cut.
There you go. There you go.
All right. What's your next? What should people watch?
We obviously cannot talk about the best horror of the year so far without the highest grossing movie, the historic first A Cinema Score film achieved by Ryan Coogler's Sinners. It's the zeitgeistiest movie of the year so far for very good reason. It is an epic that is like all caps epic, you know, this movie that you forget is horror for a really long time and do not care because this ensemble cast is absolutely incredible. The filmmaking is incredible. I mean, the scene that everybody doesn't want to stop talking about is the music scene with Miles Cawthorn, you know, when they're in the juke joint and there's time blending. I mean, it's the aspect ratio changes in this entire movie, everything. And then when you do get to the horror, it's a bloodbath, which is, you know, that's what you want. You want the payoff to be as epic as everything that preceded it, and it is.
Yeah, it feels very, the bloodbath of it all feels very Tarantino. We're obviously going to call it a From Dusk Till Dawn references here. It is very much that. It's Jim Crow era juke joint From Dusk Till Dawn, and that's great. We should
Yeah.
have more movies like From Dusk Till Dawn. But that music scene, man, the musical number they do where they blend music through the eras and just go through culture, through instruments
It's
and
like,
all that stuff, it is goddamn gorgeous. Like not just the visuals of it, but the stories it's telling and the way that it is reliving so many traumas through music, but at the same time saying like this is how societies endure and how we pass
yeah.
stories on through lyrics and stuff. It is such an important just theme, whatever you want to call it. Everything. Everything in those moments is immaculate. And I'm not gonna, again, the cast. What are we doing here? The cast is just top to bottom all bangers.
It's seriously, yeah. Also justice for Grace because I've seen Grace take a lot of garbage. She that's a whole other movie. Call me when we want to unpack Sinners. But yeah, the entire cat. There's not a weak link among the cast, not a single one. This is literally like they're truly an ensemble of the highest degree, impeccably crafted, riveting. And it's one of those things where you know we talk a lot about like horror is political, and it is like there's a lot of subtext, but there's layers of enjoyment that's I think rare. You can enjoy it whatever you want to take away from this movie, you can because it's so much movie.
I was gonna say like horror. It has always been political.
Yeah, totally.
It's the same dumb conversation and stuff. And when you see a movie like Sinners teaching you so much, it's like
Yeah.
why would you not want that? Like it's why would you want that removed from the horror movie and make it just another From Dusk Till Dawn?
Yeah, he was very upfront about his influences, but then absolutely made it his own. I don't know if you I'm an avid credit reader, and the list of like historical advisors that they had was incredible. Like it's well researched. Obviously, it shows in the movie how well researched it is, but some of it surprised me. Like Delroy Lindo being the advisor for historical gambling practices. Like I need to know everything about this cast, you know, and it's not, it's rare that a movie makes me want to dig into everybody's personal, not personal lives, but like, where did you come from that you are an expert on history like this?
Yeah,
So
what
yeah,
life are you living?
what like yeah, I want to. Does he have a biography? I need to read it because yeah, I'm obsessed with pretty much every facet of this movie.
Well, I've got one left, and it's not my number one. I will admit that right now my number one horror movie is The Ugly Stepsister, but we have covered that already, so I won't do that. My last one left is my number two so far, and I never in a million years thought it was going to be here, but I'm talking about the monkey, Oz Perkins. I'm not going to say my adversary, but it is historically known on this podcast that Oz and I have different ideas of the horror movies that we want to see. And I'm
Yeah,
so very happy that he makes stuff that he wants to, and he is the master of slow burn to Mr. Monagle. We know this already. We don't have to get
yeah,
into it.
yeah.
But Oz Perkins, the Midnight movie guy, came out in The Monkey. And I'm gonna be honest, to me, it's a better Final Destination than Bloodlines.
I agree. I agree for a variety of reasons, but you go.
Oh, I wasn't gonna go that much farther because it is just a gore-filled, absolute banger of a death is inevitable kind of movie, but it's doing it with Perkins's level of not give a fuckness. Like he's always dealing with grief and trauma and all these heavy topics, and to do them with comedy as well, it
Yeah,
just gives it a different light. Like he is dealing with the same themes he always does,
yeah,
and it is very King-esque in the way that it is a bleak story once again about inevitability and fate, but it's so much fun. And I was like,
yeah.
wait, Oz Perkins can do fun? What is this? What is happening?
Yeah, what's so funny to me is, you know, I got to interview him for The Monkey. and he had mentioned finding Longlegs really funny. Like there was and I can definitely see some of the humor, especially in the third act, which is usually where people find it more divisive. But I think he was like, well, nobody saw the humor in that because it's scary. So let me really showcase my sense of humor because up until this point, yeah, everything's been pretty like, you've got the slow burns, you've got the super serious, or you've got the vibe kind of feel. This is full blown splat stick. I don't think we get splat stick in this way very, very often. And I love that. And Theo James is, we were talking about Jai Courtney. Somebody needs to let him be weird. He's got this weirdo character actor, and so does Theo James. Clearly, twice in dual role, and he gets weird. And I love that. It's such a fun movie. Death is absurd. That's the movie.
Yeah, death is absolutely absurd, and the Theo James love needs to be there more because I 100% agree. He's worked with Guy Ritchie and all these. He's gotten to do some fun stuff, but it never really gets highlighted. He's always in a cast that overshadows him or something like that. Where the Monkey Man, letting him play both of those roles, the absolute monster of a lunatic who is killing people with a monkey that's
And a
banging
mullet.
cymbals in a mullet and like a Guy Fieri suit, basically, but then the other side of that of just playing so stuck up and nerdy and very skittish, like getting to showcase both of those sides and do them in the same scenes a lot of times, really was impressed by that. But once again, I was not ready for how splat stick this was. Like, it
Yes.
is the perfect term for it. I was not 100% believing Perkins had it in him, but like, hey, like every
He's
movie,
got range.
literally, I was like, Mr. Perkins, I was not familiar with your game. Like, I hadn't seen you do anything like this yet, and I really hope he takes time to do something like this again. I know we're gonna go right back to getting the normal Oz Perkins. There's nothing wrong with
Um,
that, but
I'm super curious because we are getting another Perkins movie later this year with Tatiana, who is in The Monkey, but
yeah,
it was also written by the screenwriter of Dangerous Animals. So
that's fun.
yeah, so I'm that's thanks to this discussion, that's on my radar. Like what's Keeper gonna be like?
Oh, fun. Again, that is fair to say Dangerous Animals was written by somebody else, not Sean Byrne. So good on him for having a Sean Byrne movie and an Oz Perkins movie in the same year.
Yeah,
God
in the
bless.
same year.
Good for you. That's like a writer's dream right there. All right. Well, I think, do we cover all yours too? Because I
Yep.
just ran out. Got yours
Yep.
as well. Well, we're going to keep it nice 32 minutes. Sorry, we went over the usual 30, but it's a mid year. We got a lot of movies to talk about. So we want to make sure you're watching the right stuff. But we're going to wind this down now. I'm going to thank Meg Navarro once again, the queen of bloody disgusting, for coming on and bullshitting with me on the podcast. It's always a pleasure to have you. Meg, where can the peoples find you?
Well, over on Bloody Disgusting, and Haunted Meg at pretty much any social media platform. So yeah.
You can find me, as always, at Donatobomb, and that's going to most primarily be Blue Sky, Instagram, and Letterbox. Play around with the TikTok if you want. I just, every once in a while, just post something just to see if I have it in me, but maybe someday I'll do it more. Who knows? Maybe I'll actually
Yeah.
do. I know, it's the air for sure. Yeah, one day when I don't have a billion things on my plate already, which is never not going to be.
No, never.
But also, thank you for listening to the podcast. And hey, if you want to leave us a rating, whether that's 5 or 4 stars, please feel free to. Anything else, you just keep that to yourself.